All right, hey there. Welcome to our football show. I'm Chris Pugh. Got Pierre Holm with me from the Canton Repository. Tonight we're going to talk about the latest in Buckeyes, Browns, and Bengals. How you doing tonight, Peter?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Chris?
Great. I never thought I would say this, but man, what an overload of football this past weekend. Man, lots of
Man,
entertaining stuff going on.
man, football weekend is in full effect from Friday all the way to Sunday, even tonight, man. That Seahawks. I don't know if we want to call it as an upset or whatever, because we don't know how any of this is going to be this year. But man, what a weekend!
Yeah, and I like this, Pierre. We live far away from each other. I don't think we can get together necessarily to watch a game. But through StreamYard beforehand, we watched the end of the Seahawks Broncos game. Seahawks upset the Broncos. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, the more surprising part is Geno Smith kind of resurrect his career right now. Looks like he got a lot of things going for him. I like Geno. Gino's from the area that I'm from, so I'm always gonna root for him just from that end. But just to see him still going at it, getting up to and outplay Russell Wilson and former former Seahawk great, all the things that he done, man, it's crazy.
Pierre, I think they're changing uniforms now.
Yeah,
Is that Gino and Russ Wilson out there?
yeah, they're exchanging jerseys and they're autograph signing. That's cool.
Oh, DK Metcalf, though. Oh, that wasn't Gino. That was DK Metcalf. Come on, Russ. Give Gino some love. Come on, buddy. Change your jerseys to Gino. He beat you. All right. Hey, we're here to talk about some of our Ohio teams. So, want to kind of get in that a little bit. Let's start with the Buckeyes, Peter. I don't know, man. Nothing super impressive. Arkansas State doesn't have a horrible team. Buckeyes won. What was it? 45-12. What'd you think about the Buckeyes? They look impressive to you?
Um, really not much there to say because those is one of those teams that you expect to blow out. Um, I guess you can say they have to an extent where at least everyone was a lot more involved compared to last week. I really do like to see Marvin Harrison play perform better than he did last week, and Mega Buka also had a stellar performance as well. It's good that to have a game like that just to continue to build confidence before they go into their next before they go into their next tough game. Um, I wouldn't expect anything less with next week against Toledo. Those are just simple tune-up things before they get ready for the conference.
Yeah, there was a couple stand performances. You mentioned Marvin Harrison. He had 3 touchdowns. CJ Stroud looked good. It wasn't. I don't think that would go down as like the top 5 games of him at Ohio State. But I definitely played well enough to win. Didn't make any huge mistakes. I just felt a little bit of uneasiness a little bit with the Ohio State passing offense. But again, their best receiver right now, Jackson Smith Najuma, he's out. So I think better days would come for Ohio State's offense. It hasn't looked bad, but I think you could see some more outstanding performances once they get the full range of guys back on the team.
Yeah, but like I said, I think it gets it's kind of a blessing in disguise too to hold Jackson Jigba out because you don't really need him against
Right.
Arkansas State. You don't need him when you're playing Toledo. You're going to need him when you're playing Wisconsin. You're going to need him when you're playing Michigan State. You're going to need him going against some top tier players, some top tier teams in the Big Ten Conference. So it's good to see that CJ Stroud has more dependable weapon are continuing to build chemistry with this young group of wide receivers right now until they focus on their conference play where they're going to be needed more. Um, saying when, or even at least until Jake Buck comes back.
Well, and you got get your depth of receivers coming up, so you see a couple of guys who may not play as much, get their wings, make sure they're okay, and hopefully give Ohio State a deeper group of receivers to play with as the year goes on.
Yeah, and they're young, and that's the most beautiful thing about it. They're all young. Just seeing them continue to grow and be part of that. It kind of remind. It's just like when Garrett Wilson and Olave were there. They came in and were impactful at a young age. When they were freshmen, sophomores. This is kind of similar now with continued that pretty much Ohio State wide receiver you in a way. They just continue to develop young, talented NFL type wide receivers, and this is another way of showing that.
I thought overall the defense looked good. I think Arkansas State's got some weapons on offense. Obviously, you can't compare them with Ohio State, but they got some guys who can play. And I thought overall Ohio State looked okay. I mean, they gave up points, but it was all field goals. And this is the same Arkansas State team that put 58 against scrambling. So I don't know, Peter. I guess the bottom line, I wasn't blown away by the win, but I wasn't disappointed either.
Look here, Chris. Look here. Arkansas State is in the Sun Belt Conference. This
Yeah,
is a big week. This was a big week for the Sun Belt Conference in general.
banner week.
You just
Yeah,
saw, you just saw Georgia Southern took out Nebraska. You saw Appalachian State beat just took out who did they take out?
Texas
Appalachian
A&M.
State and C&M. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um a couple weeks before, Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech. Just be, I mean, Ohio State clearly are the better team, and I don't expect them to go down easily. But don't underestimate the the non-power five teams, especially the Sun Belt. They're on the come up, and they produce just amount of NFL talent than any Power Five team as well. So there's some obviously you just hope that that 9 out of 10 chances is going to end up as a blowout. But whenever that day comes where you don't take them seriously is when they catch you at their worst time, and that kind of show there. So hey, the Sun Belt, that's the fun belt right now.
well, and I was impressed too. And I think we get that more as we're in NIL season. It seemed like Arkansas State had a ton of guys coming from different schools. It was kind of crazy. They got a lot of transfers there, which, you can make an argument either way. You could say, well, if they transferred from one school, they probably didn't get the playing time that they wanted, so they're really that good. Or it's like, man, they're going to a smaller school, they can look better, they get a chance to play, and yeah, Arkansas State had some guys who can play on offense.
Yep. And Arkansas State, they have their fair chance of producing some NFL talent as well. I didn't even mention Marshall beating Notre Dame. So now,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, man, this is don't sleep on the Sun Belt. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, let's talk about that because that kind of goes with Ohio State because game one, Ohio State beat Marshall, not Marshall, sorry, Notre Dame, 21-10. And I think the argument after that, we were kind of like, man, maybe Notre Dame looks better. Is Notre Dame going to run the table or whatever the case might be? And they lost to Marshall, and your point's well taken. Don't sleep on these guys, and obviously Notre Dame slept on Marshall. What do you think that means for Ohio State? Because no matter what, it kind of decreases a little bit of the resume of beating Notre Dame like that at the opener.
now you just think about it, Chris, that this was the conversation that we had even before our first episode was you don't get caught up with the preseason rankings, and this kind
Mm-hmm.
of shows. Notre Dame shouldn't have even been a top five team to begin with because of
Okay.
the because of the amount of players that they lost offensively, as at least as far from a skilled players perspective. They don't know exactly their identity is right now. Um, their quarterback, he's dealing with the growing pain. They don't have a preliminary weapon. The offensive line is decent. Their defense is competitive, but that's not going to get them enough points. And all it takes is an experienced Marshall team can come to your territory and put and just come here and smack you in the mouth, and that's exactly what you did. So yeah, as far as resume goes, that could affect Ohio State from that matter. But what I will say is Notre Dame was never supposed to be a top five to begin with. So that I would that's all as far as I could go with that.
Here's what bothered me as a Notre Dame fan. And yeah, when you lose to Marshall, you should be bothered. I Marcus Freeman. Okay, yeah, Notre Dame wasn't going to win the national title this year. I think the best compliment you could have given Marcus Freeman after a Ohio State game is he had his guys playing hard, and I think he did. I mean, Notre Dame missed some chances that didn't help them beat Ohio State, but he at least had the guys playing hard. Man, I didn't watch the Marshall Notre Dame game, but there had to be a drop off somewhere. If maybe the guys were playing hard enough, maybe didn't take Marshall serious enough, and sometimes it's a reflection on the coach, which kind of bugs me a little bit.
No, no. Again, it's not like they weren't playing hard. They were just not good. That could be the case too. Because I saw a
Well,
little bit. Because I saw that game too. And it's not like they didn't play hard. They just again, there's not enough experience on that team. That's
okay.
the issue right now. The quarterback is in his first year. There there's not enough wide receivers. They were all gone to the NFL. The running game is non-existent. They just don't have right now with Marcus Freeman. They're gonna go through these kind of struggles. I think they're gonna be okay later down the stretch once they get more experience and they continue to grow with Marcus Freeman. But right now, they are not where they need to be.
Very interesting. Well, I wonder what that tells you about Ohio State. I mean, I think what we came out of it from the first game with Notre Dame was they didn't play that well, but they won a different way. This is a game maybe you lost last year, but you still beat Notre Dame like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much Ohio State has to worry about because, honestly, Peter, unless they put up a lot of clunkers, if they win out, they're in the top four and go into the national playoffs. So maybe it's nothing that Ohio State fans should be too concerned about right now.
No, I wouldn't get too concerned either. I think if the more concerning if they end up losing one or two games in the conference, or they don't win their Big Ten title, because that's likely going to get you in the top four, and they're already in the top. They're already in number three right now. So if that's probably that enough, if they continue their win streak, then they shouldn't have to be nothing to worry about. So right now, you just get through week by week, and hopefully, when you get into conference play, when you're playing against teams like we mentioned, Michigan State, like a Penn State, teams that are in the top 25 range, and you beat them, then you just really nothing else you have to worry about. It's all going to work out itself.
Um, we should mention this quickly before we move on to the NFL. Michigan. Now, Michigan hasn't played anybody yet. They played a iffy Colorado State team, and then they play a iffy Hawaii team. So now they won both games convincingly. Man, Michigan's number four. I think we just assumed after last year that Michigan was not going to be ranked up that high. You think Michigan can kind of stick around top four for the year until they play Ohio State?
I don't know. I can't really tell because their schedule is just as it's just as easy as Ohio State is, kind of. They have been impressive, and it's starting to look like it's going to be more blowout because they play UConn next. So I it doesn't really surprise me that much. Michigan is good, and they got a good amount of players that are coming back, and I'm I wouldn't surprise me if in the showdown when Ohio State and Michigan face off and they're both remaining in the top five. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all because they're both really good. So
Okay. Let's move on. Browns and Panthers, probably one of the more hyped NFL games of the week because I almost call him Baker Mayfield made his return to play the Browns. Browns win. Cade York, 50-yard field goal late in the game. I don't know. First week of the year, Peter, we always talk about overreactions. We always say, hey, just because something happens doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way the rest of the year. Are you feeling better about the Browns after watching that game on Sunday?
do I feel better if you're a Browns fan?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say that because one, you never even thought that you wouldn't have a shot with Carolina Panther without Deshaun Watson. First of all, um, it was a good game. I mean, we wouldn't expect anything less. Both of them were competitive. Both it was back and forth. There was a concerning because in the second half, knowing that the Browns were pretty much in control pretty much most of the game until that fourth quarter, where they had that little breakdown, and that led to a more competitive game. It came down to a field goal, and Baker Mayfield was getting hot. So that was a bit concerning. So that in that regard, I'm still a little iffy with their passing game with Jacoby Brissett. Brissett didn't really do much, but this is also one point when I talked to you yesterday that you don't want Jacoby Brissett to do as much because
Right.
you have your running game with Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb was killing it, and your defense. If they just continue with that, then you should be able to get the victory. It might not necessarily come down to when K York making that 58-yard field goal, which again, if you want to talk about an overreaction, I even mentioned I'm on a Cade York hype train. I think you might want to consider him for rookie of the year, but that also goes to the point that sometimes that's all you need when you're going against a team like the Carolina Panthers and going forward.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Cade York looked impressive. They ran the ball. Probably not a ton, but better than I thought they would. Um, and I think you said too, Peter. I think we kind of looked at Carolina as a really bad team, but you mentioned last week. I mean, they've got good defensive players. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey could stay healthy, they're in better shape. And you know, I don't know. I thought it was a win that the Browns needed to have. What do you think it would have meant for their psyche if somehow Carolina won that game? Do you think there'd been a lot of frustration would have lasted? Like, how important was it for the Browns to win that game? Obviously, we'll win every game, but how bad would it have been if the Browns would have lost that? Looking forward to week two.
It would be a bad look just because you let a former Brown player beat you. Like
Mm,
at least start with that. So, so at least from that regard, Baker Mayfield's quote unquote revenge game has been avenged. So from that regard, now you just ask, and also probably will be in the question with the quarterback situation. Uh, is are you sure you'll be able to believe in Jacoby Brissett? Do you believe that they're gonna their passing game's gonna be as effective going into the next few games? Uh, so there was gonna be questions, but again, it was a toss up. But I knew in my mind that the Browns just at least just from a personnel that they just looked like the better team. It was just a matter of just putting it all together.
Gotta look at this too, Peter. Next week, Browns home against the Jets. No Zach Wilson for the Jets. Joe Flacco.
They should get that win. That's
Yeah.
The Jets are they're hurting right now.
Well, and I gotta tell you too. I mean, I look at the same thing as the Carolina game. I mean, Carolina's got some good guys on there, but you had to win that game. If the Browns, if you want to make an argument, the Browns going to win the playoffs, and you know, Peter, we talked about how that might be a tall bet no matter what. But if you want to entertain that argument, you got to beat Carolina and you got to beat the Jets. I mean, it all comes down to.
Absolutely, those are the wins that you gotta have. Especially the more wins, the matter. But also at the same time, man, it's the NFL. Anybody can be anybody any given Sunday. So that's something that you just don't want to underestimate. But yeah, but those wins, you got to get as much win as possible until between now and until Deshaun Watson returns.
Let's spend a little more time talking about the last game of the week, the longest game of the week, and Pierre, the craziest game. Bengals AFC champs from last year. They played the Steelers. They handled the Steelers pretty good last year. And all kinds of craziness happened, Peter. Joe Burrow didn't have a strong start to the regular season. I will say, Peter, Bengals were -5. We're usually in NFL, if you're -5, you lose by 40. Bengals had every chance to win that game. And if it wasn't for a long snapper being hurt, they probably could have won that game 4 different ways.
Man, this is a bad kicker. Unless it's Cade Bear. Can you believe that? First of all, um, yeah, we can look at that regard, but then at the same time, we can also look at the 5 turnovers that was committed with Joe Burrow and not being things were just not really looking right for Cincinnati, where you were never going to win games if you allow 5 turnovers. So things were just not looking right. So on paper, you should be good enough to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it didn't really turn out that way. The Steelers came to play. The defense were coming after Joe Burrow. He was under pressure. The offensive line didn't really look great. After the offseason moves that you made, like what did you actually accomplish just after coming off that Super Bowl run? It makes you want to question about the Bengals.
Yeah, it looked like it was just overall they were rusty, I think. And you know, we talked about it. You know, we were both saying the offense line against defense line, huge in every game, but even more critical here. Could the Steelers' offense line keep up? I mean, their run game was non-existent, but they only allowed 1 sack, which is kind of crazy. And you know, the Bengals, who had definitely had the better offense, they were under duress. It was a very strange game. I think for this, well, first of all, with the Bengals, I mean, I don't know, Pierre. You've covered football and you followed football. They didn't have a backup long center. I mean, the long snapper they had wasn't that great. Didn't have that much experience, and it clearly showed. And Pierre, so many different ways the Bengals could have won that game. I don't know. Do more teams need a backup long snapper? What happened with the Bengals there?
It happened. I mean, those are one of those worst of lucks that what else can you do in that situation if your backup long if your long snapper is hurt and you're dealing with a backup? I mean, what I don't know what else kind of solution it would or how much of a major difference it will make if your regular long snapper was there because you still missed the field goal. So
Yeah, but you know, Pierre was watching that game the way I looked at it. I mean, yeah, he still missed the field goal. You can't totally blame the long snapper, but man, there were kicks he could have had, and they said the long snaps were kind of rough. Um, the extra point, last play of regulation where Minka Fitzpatrick came in and got the block. Hey, Minka was amazing. He played out of his mind for the Steelers.
good, man.
I think it was like 14 tackles. Yeah, pick six. He had the extra point
First
block.
play. That first play, pick six.
Yeah,
And that's I don't even know you can even blame Joe Burrow because That was just a great play by Mika. He read the quarterback's eye and he just jumped the route because he know where it
Yeah.
was going. That was a good play on Mika's end, and just a bad throw on Joe Burrow's end.
Well, and give him credit for the extra point block. I'm not taking anything away from Minka. That play, because of the long snapper, it just developed really slow, which helped kind of propel Minka to having that. I don't know. I mean, their kicker's fine. You just didn't have your backup in place, and just it made it tough. I thought the defense for the Bengals played okay. I thought, they just Pierre. I would never thought that we would have said, man, the Bengals offense just couldn't do it. But I think they really didn't help the defense wasn't really helped by the offense. I mean, there was a lot of bad, field, there was a lot of drives that started in the Steelers territory. It just def- defense wasn't helped out by the offense at all. I think the Steelers' offense is still a work in progress, still struggling. I'm not sure if Mitch Trubisky's your quarterback, but I don't think the Bengals made a huge falter that way. I think the offense just put them in bad spots all day, which
I,
I would have never thought that would be the case before the game.
I was gonna say the Bengals did defense did look play well, and
Mm-hmm.
to your point, yeah, they were put in tough situations because of Joe Burrow's mistakes and his turnovers. Yeah, but also at the same time, they still performed well. I mean, they were able to stop the run. Um, they were able to at least contain Mitchell Trubisky. Not Mr. Trubisky was anything special either. So it's not like they didn't play terribly, but yeah, they were in a bad situation, and they eventually got worn out just because they've been on the field most of the time. It happened. So that I wouldn't hold that against them, but yeah, those are just one of those things where when your defense is only his end of the bag and you're just hoping the offense and special teams will come through. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah, a couple strange calls, I guess. Most notably, people were saying if they could have had the replay on Jamar Chase's um, touchdown from earlier, that could have changed things.
There's a lot of things that could have been changed, but at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it but to move forward. So it's
And the
it's
Bengals got a chance for that. Next week, I think it's a national television game on CBS. They had the Dallas. And Dallas, it's interesting. You go in the year, you always think Dallas is going to do well. But no Dak Prescott. He got hurt. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Cooper Rush appears your starting quarterback. Hearing some rumors on Steelers Twitter, maybe the Cowboys might be interested in Mason Rudolph. Um, I'm looking at this Dallas game as kind of a must-win. What do you think this week? You think the Bengals can pull off?
um I think they can. Um the Mason Rudolph thing, I'm not really buying a whole lot about that. I mean, if you want to bring him to be your backup, I think that's the only thing he's going
Right.
to be good for. But I think the Bengals should be fine. I think they're good enough. The Cowboys look terribly, even when Dak Prescott was playing. Dak Prescott was not didn't play well at all. Something is not really right about the Cowboys offense. They're they're not looking good right now. Just from the offensive line that has been dealing with injuries even before the season. You got Dak Prescott going down. The running game is not being utilized enough with Ezekiel Elliott, and the only positive about it. And then CeeDee Lamb, um, you have questioned if he is your legitimate number one wide receiver threat. On the defensive end, they were able to the defense outside of Micah Parsons, they didn't even play that all that great either. Even if it is going against Tom Brady, so Cowboys all around, it was already a disaster just going into the season. So I don't see why the Bengals can go and come into Jerry World and escape with the win. I think it's gonna be another competitive game for sure.
Yeah, must win for the Bengals if they want to get where they need to get. They need to get this win for sure. All right, well, Pierre, appreciate everything, man. I know it's late at night. I want to make sure we didn't take too much time. Anything you want to promote? I mean, you're doing a lot of stuff for the Canton Repository. Anything you want to promote there, or anything else you got coming up?
Not really a whole lot. I did wrote a little piece about Dominic Robinson and his performance. He played
Yeah.
well in his debut. He only played like 41% of the snaps, but he took advantage of every minute of it. He had 7 tackles. Uh, he had 1.5 sacks as well. 2 QB hits. Yeah, he took advantage of that at Soldier Field. Even at Soldier Field, when it looked like a marsh pit, they were still was able to get the victory and upset the 49ers. So that Darren Munford played in the second half of the game at right tackle. That's something that Josh McDaniel is going to reevaluate with his offensive line with the Raiders. So I wrote a little piece about that as well. So that's something to be on the lookout. And oh yeah, and this Friday I'll be at the St. Edward Massillon game. That's supposed to be the game of the week up here.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's a really good one.
so so be on the lookout for those for that in that regard.
Fantastic. We keep saying support local journalism. Um, I know it's different for some people saying, why would I subscribe to a website? Well, believe me, we're putting this stuff up right away. Try and keep you updated. So if it's Canton Repository, Columbus Dispatch, or wherever you get your local news from, check it out. And also check out Cash App. Great way of saving money back and forth to each other. It just makes life so much easier. Download Cash App for the link on our podcast. Cash App will deposit $5 in your account. All right, well, Pierre, thanks so much, man. As always, I appreciate it. Crazy day today, good day, but crazy. And thanks for your time, Pierre. For Pierre, this is Chris. Have a great night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mooney. Welcome to what is our new Hope Interrupted podcast based on the work from our book, Hope Interrupted, that I co-authored with my good friend Byron McCauley.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm looking forward to this podcast as much as I was looking forward to writing this book with you. We hope to interview some high impact folks as well as have a little fun.
We're going to cover stories of hope. To learn more about our podcast and our book, please visit www.hopeinterrupted.com.